Well, hello and welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us again today as we continue our chronological read through of Scripture. Today we're going to continue with this second sermon of Moses in Deuteronomy. It's a rather long sermon. We'll be in it for a while yet. Yesterday, Moses was exhorting the children of Israel to not forget what God had done for them, to be sure to remember that it's God's doing that they are living the high life and the lush and prosperous land that they were going to be receiving. It's not their own. Today, Moses gives them a positive exhortation as he tells them what their response to God's grace and blessing should be. To fear and to love and to obey God because of his wondrous grace and faithfulness. That's what their reaction should be. Moses speaks of circumcising the foreskin of their heart. That's kind of a loaded image that not only reminds them what the point of circumcision was, but also reminds them of the effect that it should have on them. Moses reminds them of what they did not see, of the plagues in Egypt and the miracles at the Red Sea, and also the miracles when certain of their forefathers rebelled and were swallowed up by the earth and so on. God's power shown in those and so many other miracles is why they can count on him to deliver what he has promised, the land of promise, against all odds. Moses promises that if they love and obey God, they will prosper in the land, for God will provide what they need. But Moses also warns them again that they should not turn aside and worship other gods, for that will anger God, and the rains will not come, and the earth will not produce, and they will perish from the land. Moses tells them to place his words, God's words, on their hearts and their minds, to teach their children, to write them on their doorposts. These things the Jews do to this very day, as they wear phylacteries tied to their foreheads, and as they place insignias on the doorpost of their homes. Moses, really God, sets before Israel blessing and curse. Blessing if they obey, curse if they do not. And Moses all but pleads with them to obey. Moses then shifts to how and where God is to be worshipped in the new land. They're to destroy all the places of worship that the peoples who now inhabit the land have made. Instead, God himself will choose a place where they are to worship. There and only there are they to offer their sacrifices and, if appropriate, consume their offerings and tithes. In speaking for God, Moses puts great emphasis on not eating the blood of any animal, but that blood is always to be drained onto the ground. We read earlier that the blood is considered the life of an animal. This would have been a number of weeks ago, that the blood is considered the life of an animal. And you may also recall that the practice of eating or drinking blood was very common among the pagans. It was thought to bring great blessing and advantage. God is having none of this. Finally, Moses carefully instructs the children of Israel not to go after the idolatrous practices of those they are displacing. The temptation will be great, but they are not to give in to it, even if someone claiming to be a prophet were to try to entice them. For God will allow them to be tested to see if their hearts are truly with him or not. Even if a family member, as trusted as their mother or their wife, encourages them to seek after other gods, they're to have no part of it. Indeed, that person is to be killed because they sought to entice them away from the only true God. Actually, even if a whole city turns from God, that entire city is to be killed without exception and without mercy, and all of its spoil burned. Such is the zeal for loving only the true God supposed to be in them. Having nothing to do with idolatry or with any other God, well, let me put it a different way. They are to have nothing to do with idolatry or with any other God, period. End of story. That's all there is to it. The reason for such a strong statement and for such harsh action is clear. Even giving in a little to false gods jeopardizes an individual's faith and integrity, and actually the faith and the integrity of the entire community. That ends our reading for today. And again, I pray that our readings are proving beneficial for you, that you're learning, that you're growing, that you think of how to apply them in our life today. It's just as important today that we not allow the false gods and the false ways of worship in the world around us to come into our worship life, to come into our relationship with God, because they also will lead us away, lead us astray from God. May God be with you and bless you. I look forward to meeting with you again tomorrow.